Hello viewers, welcome once again to AfroClick TV, and as you already know, this is your girl Mamea. On our episode today, we are going to talk about something that is easily said. You hear it every day, but it's very difficult to do. We're going to talk about forgiveness and who does it benefit. And to help us in this discussion, we have a very special guest. He's so dear to me. He's a brother, a father, a husband, a friend. Join me, welcome Dr. Emmanuel Arthur. He's a researcher in the university in Denmark. Thank you. And before we go into the topic, I want you to like, to share, to subscribe, and don't forget to leave your comments. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Okay. Dr. Emmanuel Arthur, thank you so much and welcome to AfroClick TV.
Thank you for having me here, and also to your viewers. It's a very nice opportunity to be able to come on this show.
So, on our topic of discussion today, like I said earlier, we're going to talk about forgiveness and who does it benefit.
Yes.
So, Dr. Emma, why do we even have to forgive? Why forgiveness?
I think that's a very good question, and maybe we should also think about why we even need to have this discussion in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that is because we live in a world where it is impossible for us to be perfect. That's the first thing, which means that it is inevitable that we would step on each other's toes. We would do things that offend people, intentionally or unintentionally. People would do things that offend us. Sometimes they will know, sometimes they will not know. And when all these things happen, it becomes important for us to learn how to forgive when it becomes necessary. Because without it, we are going to walk around with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of resentment, and it doesn't help build relationships. It doesn't help to keep healthy connections with people that we meet. So I think that is why it's important to have this discussion.
So then, what's forgiveness?
That question is very tricky because it depends on who you're asking. And forgiveness means different things to different people, and it also depends on what is going to be forgiven. Because there are some things where forgiveness implies that the person comes to pay you back something, and then you say, okay, all is forgiven now, you can go home. Or the person never comes and you have to still forgive. So in that case, generally speaking, we can define forgiveness as making a decision to stop resenting someone or having bad thoughts about someone because of something they have done. So that is a general definition. But like I said, it depends on the specific situation that determines how it plays out in practice. Yeah.
When you were speaking, you said something about intentional and unintentional wrongdoing or something, someone offending you either intentionally or unintentionally. So how would you know that this person is doing this intentionally and the person is doing it unintentionally?
I think intentionally is a bit easy to identify. Unintentionally sometimes is not clear because you can easily mistake unintentionally for intentional. Intentional is easy. You go with someone and he kicks you on purpose. It's quite easy. Or you go meet someone in the process of saying something bad about you. So that's quite clear. Or you find out that someone betrayed something you told them. So that is easy. The difficult part is when something happens that it could be that the person had no ill intentions. So the person must have heard something from you which you think is confidential, but you did not tell the person it was confidential. So the person is talking with friends and says it again, and maybe even sees you the next day to tell you, hey, mommy, I met a couple of our friends yesterday, and I was telling them about the job that you lost last week, and then you feel like, the person has betrayed you, but the person doesn't think that's a problem. So it depends. But I think whilst we think about that, we should also, to make it easy for ourselves, remember what forgiveness is not. Because forgiveness is letting go of those resentments. But forgiveness is not suddenly being friends with someone again if they did something that hurts you a lot.
Okay.
You can go through the process of letting go of the resentment and letting go of bad thoughts about the person without necessarily being friends again, because everything we do has a cost. If I have a very good friend, a close friend, and the person betrays my trust, I get hurt, I can forgive the person. It doesn't always mean that I have to go back and confide in the person again. And sometimes we're mistaking the two. So people say, oh, you haven't forgiven me, because if you have forgiven me, we can be close friends again. Not necessarily. You can forgive someone without building the relationship if you think it's not healthy for you.
Okay.
So that is what makes it difficult for us, because we feel like if I have forgiven the person, then everything should be able to go back to normal. And also, forgiveness is not condoning wrongdoing. This is why if someone steals your television and sells the television and you report it to the police and the police come and find the person and arrest the person, you can forgive the person. The person might not return your television back. You can forgive him for stealing your television. But if the police wants to deal with him legally, the fact that you've forgiven him doesn't mean he should not pay for the mistake. So forgiveness is not condoning wrongdoing. And forgiveness is not tolerating wrongdoing. And this goes to particularly to abusive situations. If someone is in an abusive relationship, you don't tolerate it to say, oh, I've forgiven the person. And the next day the person does it again. And oh, because I forgive the person, now it's okay, I'll forgive the person again.
And then you're still in the relationship.
That is not forgiveness. That is a bit, that's the topic for another day. But that is also not forgiveness. So I think we should make that clear, so that when we say people should forgive people, we don't make them think that it will mean everything should go back to normal, or you should condone what the person is doing, or tolerate it, or and one small thing. So if you live with someone, the person likes to pick their nose. Some people feel very, very offended by that. But that is not something that's harmful to you. But you feel offended by it. But the person is just a habit. It may not be picking up nose, it may be something else, which is a habit. And it's someone you live with, or your children, or your husband, or your wife. In that case, it's different. You can forgive the person. The person might not change because this is who he is. So you can, in that case, you can tolerate it because it's not something that's harmful to you. It's something that is because of your likes and dislikes. It's not because the person has done something wrong against you. So that's a different kind of forgiveness.
So I'm living with somebody and the person just likes giving nicknames unnecessarily. And it's something I don't like. I've made it aware to the person, Masa, I don't like this kind of, I know it's your behavior, but I don't like it. Do I still have to tolerate this?
No, because in that specific example, the person is doing something to you. In the example I gave, it is something about the person himself or herself that you find irritating. So he's not doing anything to you, but you know, we all have things that we kind of cannot stand, because some people don't like people who pick their nose. This is the example I can think of. Or people who live in the same house and then just throw their socks everywhere, right? But it's not something that the person is doing to you. It's something that the person has to change about themselves. So then you can tolerate it because it doesn't harm you necessarily. Yeah.
So from everything you've said so far, that means forgiveness is a decision you have to make on your own.
Yes. That's something I had in mind, but now you bring it up, I just get to it. So forgiveness is not related to the other person in any way. We will get to that. But in simpler terms, you know, when you drive, you get to a place where it's a one-way street. Forgiveness is like that. You're the one that has to forgive. It depends entirely on you. It doesn't depend on the other person. Because it is you letting go of resentment or bad thoughts towards someone. The other person maybe can help with their actions, but can choose to not help, and you still have to do it if you realize it's important for you, which we'll get to, I think.
Okay, so then what are some of the challenges in forgiving?
I guess the first and obvious one is when the person makes it clear that I've done this to you. Yes, I know I did it. I don't care. So
I won't even apologize.
of course, I'm not going to apologize. Yeah, it's just the way I am. I like kicking people. So I kicked you and you said you were hurt. Yeah, okay. I don't care. Of course, that is the difficult part. Where someone does something to you and the person makes it clear that I know I did it and I'll do it again if it's the same situation. I went behind your back, betrayed you, so I got your job. If the same thing happens again, I'll do it again. That makes it difficult to forgive because the person has no regret and has no plans of stopping it if they get a chance again. So that's one big thing. The second one is if the person that has wronged you is in a higher position of authority. So like your boss, or your parents, or when you're small or something, where you didn't have the chance to even say that the person has done this to you. And so even if it is intentional or not on that person's side, you don't get a chance to discuss it. Then it becomes difficult to forgive if it's something that really hurt you.
Sorry, like in our homes, traditionally there's this saying like akolani penina sama akolani before and opinion. So assuming like what you're saying, my boss does something to me, it hurts me.
Yeah.
Or my pastor or an elder does something to me, it hurts me. But because I am not in that position to really express myself, like you just then they compel you to go to you that you're offended to go and apologize.
Yes.
Just because the person is in a higher authority than you.
That is dangerous and unhealthy, and probably one of the things that need to change because it has no benefit whatsoever. If someone has done something wrong against someone, the position of authority does not come in, and that does not solve the problem. And I think that's one of the challenges because if you feel like you are being taken advantage of because of your low position or your low status or the fact that you're a child, and you don't get a chance to even say how you feel about it, then it is naturally difficult to forgive. And those things, you can keep them for a long time because it never got resolved, right? Yeah. And then the other thing I think is also that the challenge is when the other person doesn't even know they have wronged you. Because then you are in this situation where someone has wronged you, they don't know they wronged you because it was in a scenario where the person did not realize that even happened. And then you have to forgive because you have been wronged, so you feel the pain. And then you don't want to go to the person to talk because you might go and the person will say, make it worse, actually say it to make it worse. So you get in this dilemma. Yeah. So that's also one of the challenges to being able to forgive someone else. Yeah.
Wow. So guys, we are not done. There's still more to talk about. I hope up till now you've gotten something. If you have a question, if you have something to add up, you can leave it in the comment section. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. Okay, and you can share it with us. Whatever it is that happened to you, you can share your experience. You can share to us how you were able to let go and to forgive. Okay, maybe to be of help to someone else. And so, Doc, practically, we talk about forgiving. I mean, we preach it in our church. We preach it everywhere. How do you do it practically? How do you practice forgiveness? How do you do it?
I wish there was a simple answer to that. Then we just say it and then we just finish the discussion. But there's no simple answer to that. I think it's a long process because, and it also depends on how bad the situation is. If someone steps on your toes in an elevator or in a train or in a market, someone steps on you, we all realize that when you're stepped on, no matter how bad it is, when the person looks back at you and he says sorry, or sometimes the person even goes, you forgive very easily. You suddenly realize that, and there are two things you realize. You realize that the person didn't do it intentionally, so that makes it easier. And you also realize that the place is crowded and you could have stepped on someone as well. So because of that realization, you think, okay, so it's easy for me to let go of that feeling of the person has done this and I'm angry at the person. But it's not that simple in some cases where the situation is more hurtful or more complicated or has taken a long time, some things happen over a long period, then it's not easy to just switch a button and then you forgive. And as I said, one thing we forgot was forgiveness also is not necessarily linked to how you feel afterwards. So if I did something bad to you, you will feel hurt and angry and annoyed from what I did. You forgiving me does not mean that suddenly you are feeling all well and good. So it's not always linked. You can forgive someone, but you still have to deal with the hurt for a longer period. That is why we should not expect people that have forgiven people to just get back to normal, or being friends with the person again, or suddenly being cheerful and hi, how are you doing? You don't expect people to do that because we are human, right? But why do you have to still do it? It is because you have to ask yourself, who is benefiting from this process of forgiveness?
That's the next question I wanted to ask. So who benefits from forgiving?
Because the other person has done something to you. In a situation where it is your friend, you can say, okay, I'm not going to talk to this person again. So the person would probably feel that they've lost something. But what if it's your boss? If you don't talk to your boss again, you get fired. You're the one who loses, not your boss. He will just hire another person. What if it's your parents who looks after you? If you are angry, you don't want to forgive him, you are the one who will lose. Because imagine a kid who says,
Doc, in the situation of parents and children, okay, it's kind of a very difficult thing to talk about. In the sense that there are some parents, they know they've hurt the child.
Yes.
They just don't know how to say sorry.
Yeah, that's on the offender's side, right?
Okay, so but when you do something, it's easy for them to identify that what the child did is wrong.
Yes.
I think some parents fail to realize that in as much as they are old, their children also have feelings. They get hurt. They have emotions. You might be old, but don't neglect the feeling of the other person.
Yes.
What's difficult about saying sorry to a child?
It depends on the culture, I guess. In some cultures, it's almost unacceptable for a parent to tell a child that he or she is sorry. So they would do things, and also because in those cultures you are made to think that when you are older, you are wiser. So you don't make mistakes when you are dealing with a child. So you can have your parents come home very angry that you stole their watch to school and make a lot of noise about it, probably shout at you about it, and then 1 hour later they find their watch that they put somewhere themselves. Most parents do not have the ability to relinquish their pride to go back to the child and say, I'm sorry that I accused you of this because now I found it and realized that I forgot where I put it. And if their parents listening, of course, that's the key, that you have to be able to apologize to children, because children would only learn how to apologize if they have seen someone do it. And it's interesting because we say that children should always apologize even if they are wrong. But how do they know how to do it? If they never seen their parents apologize to themselves, they see their parents do things that are wrong, but the parents never apologize to the child. So the child doesn't know how to do it properly, at least, except maybe they learn it from home. So that is it. But back to why it's important to forgive, because you have to think of who it benefits. We all know the situation where you have a co-worker, or you have a classmate, or you have a church mate, or anywhere you have people you work with, or go to school with, or go to party with, whichever. And then they do something to you. intentionally or unintentionally, it doesn't matter, because for you the feeling will be the same. And you don't forgive them. Whenever you go to a space where they are there or they bump into you, the question is, who feels the most negative reaction? It is you that has been hurt that feels it, because you're walking in a corridor and the guy just, or the lady just bumps into you, and you suddenly get startled because you are angry at the person, and you start having all these negative feelings which can be with you for the rest of the day. You are going to be angry at someone else who has done nothing, mess up your day. So at the end, the only person who would benefit from it, first and foremost, is yourself. And of course, if it's a close relationship, your husband, your wife, your children, or people you work with, then the benefit is both ways, because then a person will also feel comfortable talking with you. Like, they do something to you and you don't forgive them, so they are not able to come and talk to you. But in some cases, the person who does the thing doesn't care and doesn't apologize. That is why it's difficult, because then you have to have a way to forgive without the person's input. If I do something, I come back, you know how they do in marriages. You come back and then you buy flowers and you add chocolate to it. Apparently that's the thing. You add chocolate to it, and then you kneel down on your knees and talk about how sorry you are. It's a bit easier to forgive then, because the person does all that. So that's actually usually not a problem. You still have to deal with the hurt for some time. But yeah, and the challenge is when at this stage the person who is offended feels like they are the ones who are at fault because they say that you deserve it and they are not willing to apologize. Then it gets a bit difficult. The next thing with that is when the partner comes home, you feel you don't feel good when they knock the door to get in, because you are not in the mood to try and pretend everything is fine when it's not, and the person does not provide an opportunity to talk about it, so you are not able to express your feelings, which makes it difficult to forgive. So that is a point where we would present some ideas on how you can go forward with that to still forgive, even if the person does not want to apologize.
No, apologize. Okay, so let's talk about some of the steps in forgiveness.
I think the first thing to do is to think about what you do to become good at something. If you want to be good at running, you practice running. If you want to be good, if you want to have muscles, you go to the gym every day and practice. You do different kinds of exercises to build your muscles. If you want to be able to be good at forgiving people, you need to do things that create a certain personality in you that engenders towards forgiveness. So, for example, one of the elements of forgiveness is being able to let go of resentment, which means you should not be a person that keeps resentment normally. And how do you do that? You have to be the kind of person that is willing to show love to people that you meet day in and day out. And it could be very small acts of love, small acts of kindness, small acts of mercy. Sometimes things are not a big deal and you can easily gloss over it and then move on with life. If you practice this regularly, then it becomes easy for you to forgive someone else if they do something against you, because you are used to letting go of things, you are used to expressing love rather than hate. The other thing is, you also have to get to the point where we don't build an attitude where you always say something bad about people, or you always say something bad behind people's backs, or you resent people even when they don't do something against you because they are successful in something or because they are ahead of you in something. If you already have this feeling, then when those people unfortunately wrong you, there is no way you forgive them, because already before they wronged you, you already resented them. You already said bad things behind their back. So it's normal for you to keep the feeling that you wish something bad happens to them. So that is one way. And the third thing is to recognize that we are all different. I mean, people, twins born in the same family are still not the same. They have different traits. We have different backgrounds. And when people do things and you're able to understand why they do it, it changes your perspective. I give you an example. like in Ghana, we always have situations where taxi drivers and trotro drivers are always at each other's necks because someone crossed you or because someone honked at you. Or so imagine when you're in traffic and someone is pressing your horn at you repeatedly, you get frustrated and angry and probably get out of the car. At that point, when you get out, you are very angry and you already tell yourself all the things you're going to tell that driver. Can't you see there's traffic ahead? But then when you get to the car and find out that there's someone dying in the car, suddenly you will be the one honking the horn at the next car to move so they can go. That change in feeling, it's only because you suddenly realize something. So when people do things to you and you remember that people are unique and there might be reasons why people act in a certain way, it might be easier for you to understand that and be willing to forgive. The other thing which is important is that we need to control our pride. If you are proud, it is difficult for you to forgive people that are lower than you, because you would always feel like they don't have even the right to offend you, because you are up here and they are down there. So why should they say bad things about you? Why should they talk behind your back? And you don't forgive them. You say things like, people like these people like that, if they offend me, or even when your friend is the one offended, people say things like, if it was me, I would never forgive them. I mean, if you are that kind of person, then it is going to be difficult for you to forgive anyone, because anyone is not you. You are wishing it is you, so you'll be able to exercise your right to not forgive. Yeah. So I think that's another thing. The other thing to consider is to deal with the pain you get when something goes wrong, because you cannot forgive when you don't acknowledge that you have been hurt. Several times we get hurt and we are made to think, oh, it's nothing, it was just a small thing, you can just forgive him and move on with your life. That doesn't help, because then you say, I forgive you, but then you get home and you wonder, why am I still hurting? Why am I still angry? Why am I still feeling the pain? But that is normal. So you first have to acknowledge that you have the pain from what has happened. And forgiving the person, as we said before, does not lead to the pain disappearing. Right? And then also, you should empathize with people when they do things. Ask yourself, if you were in their shoes, would you do it any different? And in some cases, circumstances are such that you would probably do the same thing. You hear that someone has done something so bad, and then when you listen to the backstory, you are honest and ask yourself, if I was in that person's shoes, I think I might have even done worse. The person must have endured something so much, and then they ended up doing that. If you always empathize with people, you might be able to have some understanding. This is very different from tolerating the wrongdoing or from trying to justify it. No, this is about understanding that the person makes a mistake, which is wrong, but there are certain circumstances that led to that. So you might be able to forgive what happened and then deal with the pain that comes afterwards. And then you should also remember when you did it and someone forgave you. And at that time when you went begging someone that, oh, I'm very sorry for what I did, won't you please forgive me? When you were doing that, you were expected to be forgiven. Yeah. So when you remember that, then you just do to other people that as you want them to do unto you.
But for people that find it very difficult to even apologize, I don't think they would understand the scenario you just gave. I wrong you, it's easy for me to come and say sorry.
Yeah.
You wronged me, it's so difficult for you to come and apologize.
Yes.
So people like that.
People like that are the ones who would be asking for forgiveness whenever someone does something to them. The interesting thing is that people that don't want to forgive are the ones that
always want people
to forgive them, and it's a strange human nature, right? But yes, at the end of the day, we always ask ourselves how we can be better at it. It is always easy in life, also in everything else, to point fingers at other people and what they do and what they don't do and why they did the thing wrong. We should take time to point the finger back at ourselves to see what we can do right. And usually, when you're able to change yourself, things get better because then you don't depend on the other person. As we said, forgiveness is a one-way street. You have to take the action for your own sake. The other person can decide to accept it. Someone can even tell you, "You are forgiving me. Why do you forgive me? I didn't do anything to you." And the person will not even recognize that he has done something to you, so he doesn't even appreciate your forgiveness. But at the end of the day, it's for your own sake, not for that other person, right? So that's something that we need to keep in mind. And then you also have to remember that the other side of forgiveness, which is revenge, doesn't pay. Revenge never gives you satisfaction. It might give you short-term satisfaction, but then you get home and find out that you're feeling exactly the same way you're feeling. I mean, imagine if someone, typical situation, right? Your husband does something to you and you do the same thing he did to you because you think, "I'll do it so he'll also feel the pain."
It's for that.
Good. But when you do it and he also feels the pain, does that make you feel better? Does that suddenly make the pain you felt disappear? It doesn't. It only now results in a situation where two people are feeling a pain that they have to deal with, but the thing hasn't disappeared. So that doesn't help either. And remember to take your time. Don't let anyone force you into it. If something happens and you don't feel like you are ready to forgive, you should not let someone force you to do it. It doesn't work. If people come and apologize and then after they are done, you really do not feel like it because you need a bit more time to process it, then you give yourself time. You don't have to let people force you into it. And an example is when someone, there's a story where a drunk driver drove into someone's child and killed them. And then he went to the police station, of course. The guy was arrested. But the mother or the father who lost the child, you don't expect them to be able to forgive overnight or in 1 month. Or anytime they go see their child's pictures, they still have the pain. They have the right to decide when they are ready to forgive. So we have to understand that for other people and for ourselves, not let other people dictate to us when we should forgive. Some people will need to deal with the pain first before they can forgive, which means they have to talk to someone, talk to a therapist. And then after that, they will be in a state of mind to be able to let go. And it's a process. So we all have to work at it in different ways. And once again, our backgrounds will determine how it goes. Some of us come from families where our parents said sorry every time something went wrong. They apologized to each other. We saw it. Or we are asked to apologize to our siblings. So it's easy. Some of us come from families where no one apologizes to anyone. So when we all grew up and something goes wrong, it's not easy to first apologize or forgive. And we all need different lengths of time to do it. Yeah.
If you're going to use time, don't you think you'll be going against the word forgive 7 times, 77 times, 7 times?
Yeah, but there has to be a first time. And that first time, you have to decide when you're ready to do that. Because I don't think in the scripture Christ intended that when someone does something, you forgive the person immediately. It depends on you. God realizes that we are humans, so we have feelings that need to be dealt with in most cases. Yeah. So I think we should not underestimate it, because otherwise we are in situations where people are forced to forgive because people think that as long as we have sat down and talked about the issue and the person has apologized, so mommy, what do you have to say now that they have apologized? And everybody's looking at you.
So
you should say, I forgive you.
And then they'll ask you to come and
hug him and shake hands. These are unrealistic goals because different people, some people will be able to do it after the person apologizes. They'll say, okay, I understand why you did it and it's okay. Other people will need time to process it. And it's unfair to force people to do that. Then they'll just stop coming to whichever fellowship it is because they don't want to deal with the person anymore because they have not been able to forgive yet. And they need the time to do it. Yeah.
So guys, there you have it. Forgiveness. Like I said earlier, you hear it everywhere. At the church, at homes, in our daily lives, you hear forgive, forget. Some even says, I can forgive, but I can't forget. It takes time. We need to heal from that pain. We need to heal to be able to let go. And so, Doc, your final words.
Final words, I think what is important now as we all listen to this, including ourselves, is that maybe we should sit down, take stock of our lives, and see people that we may have wronged. That's the easy part. We may have wronged that we have to reach out to and make it a bit easier for them to forgive us if we have wronged them. But the difficult part is us taking stock of people that have wronged us, that may not even know that we have not let go, and we still have this resentment within us. We should try and slowly, it takes time. I don't expect that we'll be able to just take a piece of paper, write 3-4 names of people that have wronged you in your life, in church, in school, wherever, and then you can just cross them out and say, okay, I forgive all these guys. It's not that simple. But at least a start will be recognizing that you need to forgive these people. And then you try to go through some of these tips and other ones that would help to free yourself of that feeling, because that is the most important thing.
Thank you. So, this brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you so much. Our guest today again is Dr. Emmanuel Arthur. He's a researcher though, but he's talking like he's so he's a researcher in the University of Denmark, right?
Aarhus in Denmark.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, let's stop covering our emotions. Let's stop pretending we are happy when we know we are hurting. If you have to talk to the person that offended you, please go talk to the person. If you feel you can let go without talking to the person, try and do it for yourself, not for the one that has offended you. So you can still leave your comments, share with us what happened and how you were able to heal yourself. Maybe it could be of help to someone else. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. And till we come your way again, I'm sure Doc will be with us again, right?
Time will tell.
He's coming back. So we'll see him again. Till we come your way again, have a nice day, have a blessed day, have a blessed week, have a blessed month. I love you, but God loves you more. See you soon. Bye-bye.